Welcome to another edition of AgriVista, where we explore topics in agriculture. I'm Joshua Tickus, a digital media major at Buena Vista University. Today, we're joined by Jeff Christians, CEO of Ranco. He is here to explain how opportunity costs are associated with some risk. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, Jeff. Now, opportunity costs are associated with some risk. That seems a little confusing, so let's break it down. What is an opportunity cost?
So in the business world, every business has the opportunity to spend their money on multiple different things. They have a lot of decisions they need to make on where they're going to place their resources. We often think of resources in terms of money, but it also is time and labor involved in that. So an opportunity cost is if I choose one decision, spend money, time, and labor on that decision, then I can no longer spend that same time or money or resources on something else. So you really need to just focus on that decision and go forward and try to get the best return out of that decision.
Okay, then on the flip side, or the back end of that question, what's considered a risk?
So the risk, of course, is the decision you make turns out to not be the right decision. You make a decision to pursue a particular opportunity and you expect a certain return and it doesn't work out that way. So that's the risk, is the project you decide to pursue doesn't return what you think it's going to return, and the project you don't pursue could have been a better option for you.
Okay, now let's bring those two terms together and go to that question as a whole. So could you provide an example of how those two terms, opportunity cost and risk, are associated?
Well, the more the opportunity cost or the greater the risk, the more you want to be paid for that risk. So if it's a high risk thing, you want to make sure that, or a high risk project, you want to make sure that your return on that investment is much higher. And conversely, if you want to take a low risk investment, the opportunity cost, then you don't expect quite as high of return.
Now, do you have any examples from your own personal experience or business experience of this taking place?
Well, just a very basic example is just me being here today. There's time involved for me coming up here that could be used doing something else. Now, this was a very, very low risk decision to come here. I only have a little bit to drive and it's a very short period of time, but there are other things I could be doing back in the office. So that's a very basic opportunity cost, very low risk opportunity cost. On the other side of things, we are currently evaluating going to a different paint product for our equipment. That's a very big decision for us because all our equipment gets this paint. It's out in the field and it's expected to look good for a very long period of time. We make the wrong decision here and go from a less expensive paint to a more expensive paint, it could impact our sales and our ability to sell equipment in the future.
Well, I think that's really interesting that you brought that up, how basically every decision we make we can look at with that opportunity cost and risk. So as a farmer, what are a few key things for me to look at when determining if the opportunity cost is worth the associated risk?
Well, the first thing is I always look at in our organization is just the raw dollar amount. We are an organization that does not like to take on a lot of debt. So if it's going to cost a lot of money and I'm going to have to go into debt to do that, I'm going to have to evaluate whether the return is enough to incur that debt. So that's the first thing I look at. The second thing I always look at is it a need versus a want. If it's a need, then it doesn't really matter what the risk is. It's something I need to pursue. If it's a want, then I need to evaluate if that want is worth the risk.
Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to sit down with us today. And I guess I've never thought of going about my decisions like that. And thank you for being here for another episode of AgriVista. I surely learned something new, and I hope you did too. Make sure to visit www.bvu.edu to learn more about BV's Ag program. Remember, at Buena Vista University, we are building your future in agriculture, one experience at a time.